Hello, I'm Jane Harris, the founder of the British Hen Welfare Trust, and I'm really pleased to be bringing this webinar to you today. It's all about avian flu and how best to enjoy your chickens during their flockdown. I'm going to introduce you to some of my colleagues, Mapp, who looks after our PR and media, Gaynor Davies, who's head of operations and responsible for saving the lives of tens of thousands of hens each year, as well as Lizzie Gatherer, who's an absolutely fantastic volunteer and supported us for many years, doing crazy things like jumping out of planes and having chickens at her wedding. So before I hand over to Fran, I just also want to say thank you very much to our three wonderful sponsors, Omlet, Dengie and Alan and Paige, without whom we wouldn't be able to bring you this webinar. So thank you. With no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Fran.
Good afternoon and welcome to the British Hen Welfare Trust's Avian Influenza webinar, covering hopefully everything that you need to know about the topic of AI. Some people have pre-submitted questions, but please do send some in as we go, and we will have a 15-minute Q&A at the end. We're here from 1 o'clock until 2 o'clock, so once we've answered all of the questions that we've already had pre-submitted, there'll be a chance for you to, or chance for us to answer some of your questions. So yeah, as I say, there should be a chat box somewhere, so please do submit any questions that you have. If you didn't realise, I'm Fran, and as Jane says, I handle the charity's PR and media. I'm here with Gaynor, who is our resident vet nurse and our head of ops, and essentially what Gaynor doesn't know about chickens isn't worth knowing, as I always like to say. And then we've got Lizzie Gatherer with us as well, who's on a separate screen. So yeah, hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. So yeah, as I say, we've had some questions that have been pre-submitted to us beforehand. So we've kind of grouped those for you, so hopefully this will be really easy to follow. So we're just going to go through and myself, Gaynor and Lizzie are going to answer the questions as we go. So the first sort of set of questions that we've had submitted to us are covering all things health related to avian influenza. So as I say, Gaynor's our vet nurse, so she's best placed to answer these. So we're just going to go through and sort of delve into the topic. So first off, Gaynor, we've had a question submitted to us from somebody asking, what are the avian flu signs in chickens? So over to you.
Thank you, Fran. Yeah, nice build up there. Thank you very much. Okay, well, the first thing I'd like to say is that people don't need to get too hung up on the sort of huge lists that you see on various websites about the symptoms, because symptoms vary from species of bird to species of bird. For instance, waterfowl can catch avian flu and actually recover from it, whereas with hens and turkeys, it's a whole different story. So, I mean, the sort of classic signs that you see, usually on these kind of lists is a blue discoloration in the wattles and the face, the swelling, lethargy, depression, excessive drinking water, and the most common one, unfortunately, is sudden death. And if you find that one of your birds has suddenly died or two, that's generally a bit of an indication. Having said that, what I want people to realise is that a lot of the symptoms can be other things as well. So if you have a bird that's a bit under the weather, a bit fluffed up, a bit quiet, doesn't necessarily mean it's avian flu. Do consult your vet.
Yeah, exactly. So don't panic if something's going on and you're not 100% sure what it is, just because it's one of the symptoms on the list that they're potentially suffering with.
Birds could be lethargic for a lot of reasons. They could be drinking more for a lot of reasons. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And somebody has asked, what can and can't you expect from vets sort of during this time? And this person says that they've seen some posts about vets refusing to see chickens full stop because of lockdown. People aren't sure how to access veterinary care for often quite sick birds. Obviously, birds are still suffering from other ailments during this time, so what would you suggest?
Yeah, I've heard these as well. Vets have got a duty of care, and there's absolutely no reason why they should refuse to see a bird. Most vets have got a bit of a plan in place so that if they do have a bird that they need to see, they can see it either in the car park in your own vehicle, in a separate building or a stable, because obviously bringing a sick bird in, if it does turn out to be avian flu, can close down the veterinary clinic. And obviously they've got to be mindful of that. Yeah. But they do have a duty of care, and you can't just say, I'm not going to see this bird.
No.
So if anybody does come across that kind of reaction from their vet, my advice is to contact the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons or to give AFA a call and just say, this is what's happened. Because this shouldn't be happening.
No, of course. And, there's going to be different guidelines from practice to practice, I suppose. So as soon as you call your vet, I guess, and say that, look, I've got a sick chicken, this is what she's suffering with, they will probably say, wait in the car park, or they'll run you through their own guidelines. So your vet should
they
help
may
you.
use more sort of PPE, then we have gloves and gowns and masks and things like that. But there's no reason why they shouldn't see.
Okay, fantastic. And sort of along the same lines, somebody has said, if my bird gets sick, can I take it to the vet, or will they cull it on arrival? Which isn't going to happen.
No, they're not going to do that. No. You mean this bird's still your pet, your responsibility.
Exactly.
You have the final say. Unless it's it's a confirmed AI case, in which case different rules apply. If your bird is just sick, you still have the last say as to what happens to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's just to kind of reassure people really that vet care for your chickens should just continue as normal. So just call your vet and just sort of see what they say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So somebody asked us how to reduce or keep down the worm burden when chickens are on the same ground all the time, because obviously with lockdown they're just kind of they're not able to free range as usual. So what would be your advice for somebody on that?
Okay, I need to start this by saying we're not vets and we're not allowed to advise on worming. But what we can say is that you can take steps to make sure that your run is a sort of a safe environment. And everybody should have basically a flock plan for their bird.
Yeah.
So speak to your vet, speak to your suitably qualified person, and devise a health plan for your birds.
Yeah.
And the other thing is drainage. If your run's wet and muddy and sticky, that's a breeding ground for all sorts of problems. If you've got the opportunity to poo pick every day, just go around, pick up any obvious droppings, take them out. Ground sanitizer, good drainage, even putting down something like some sharp sand to make better drainage, cleaning off hard surfaces. And you can do worm sampling. There's kits that you can buy online and send off a sample, and that will tell you, what the situation is with your bird with the worm burden.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Yeah, and a really good point about drainage, because at this time of year it just hasn't stopped raining for what feels like weeks. It's been every single day. So I know a lot of people have been saying on sort of our social media and in chats and things that they're struggling with muddy runs. So there is guidance on our website about how to sort of minimise the mud in your run, and we will send a link out in the e-shop that comes out after the webinar. So yeah, please head to our website and make sure you're signed up for our newsletters, and then you will get that afterwards. So yeah, we thought we should also sort of cover what people should do if you suspect that one of your birds has avian influenza. If you go into your run and you see a dead bird, or you just have some kind of suspicion, what would you suggest?
First line of action is always to contact your own vet.
Okay.
And people need to be registered with the vet. Really, don't wait until there's an emergency situation. Have a good relationship with your vet.
Yeah.
Call up and just explain your concerns.
Okay.
Also, there's an AFA helpline number that you can call, and they'll also obviously give you advice. There are different numbers depending on whereabouts in the British Isles you are, so different for Wales and cross government in other countries.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah. And again, I know people are probably thinking, well, what's the number? What do I call? What do I do? So we will put all of this information in the e-shop that goes out afterwards, and this is all being pre-recorded as well. So recorded, so it will be available afterwards, so you can watch it back if you're unsure of anything. So yeah, please don't panic if you're not sort of able to scribble things down as we go. So our first sponsor of today's webinar, as Jane mentioned previously, we've got three. We've got Allen & Page, Dengie and Omlet. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Allen & Page's Smallholder range, which is a tried and tested product here at the charity. We've used it for our chickens for many, many years, haven't we? So Gaynor is just going to run you through some of the kind of main benefits and features of the product.
Brilliant. Thanks, Fran. The first thing I'd like to say is that I only recommend things that I know and have used on my own birds, and I can't talk more highly about the Smallholder range. It's just such an amazing natural product. It's completely soy-free, it's GM-free, it's Vegetarian Society approved, and it's just a really good all-round product. It's got there's marigold added into it, which makes gorgeous, really yellow yolks, which are amazing in your breakfast. All vitamins and minerals. It's really well balanced. There's additional calcium added in. It's just such a good product. Omega-3 is added into it as well. And the good thing about the product is that it comes in two different formats. So you've got the layers crumble, and you've also got the layers pellet. And different hens like different things. It's like people.
Yeah, of course.
Not everyone likes the same sort of things. But we find that generally, when hens are first rehomed through the charity, they are more used to the crumble product. So the crumble is a much finer product. It's sort of very finely milled,
and that's what they're used to eating in a commercial farm,
exactly.
isn't it?
And they they're fed this, and they eat it. It takes them longer to eat it. It's a really good product. And the good thing about this format is that you can actually mix it with some warm water and make it into a warm porridge for them.
Yeah.
So in the winter, lovely. I like porridge in the morning. And
Me too.
Friend.
Yeah.
And the other really good thing about this is if you've got a hen that's not particularly wanting to eat, is that you can make it into little balls. So you just grab a pinch of the wet mixture and then roll it between the palms of your hands into a sort of size of a pea. Sort of line up about a dozen of those, and then you can actually just open your hen's beak and pop them in the back of the beak, and they'll swallow them. And Bob's your uncle. You've got a ready meal, and you've got some food into them quickly.
Perfect.
But it's very good and easy to use, and lovely fine milk product.
And also it smells great, doesn't it? Whenever we mix it up here, I'm like, oh, that smells really good. It's really appetising.
I'll have some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other form of it is the pellet form, and then obviously the pellet is as it says, it's pellets. And this is probably there's a little bit less mess with it, I suppose, because hens are great at scattering their food around, aren't they? I mean, mine just love to get in the bowl and kick it out and throw it around everywhere. So the pellet is a little less, goes a bit, doesn't go quite so far, if they're kicking it around. But it's exactly the same levels of nutrients and ingredients. And you'll get some hens that only want to eat crumble. You'll get some that prefer the pellets. Mostly they'll transition from the crumble onto pellets, and over time, just maybe mix half and half. Let them get used to the different textures.
Yeah.
But both are equally good. And just one little story. Last lockdown, the avian influenza, my own birds were, a little bit sort of under the weather, and I can't remember why. I think we'd had to buy some different food in because we couldn't get hold of the element page at the time. And I noticed immediately that the egg production dropped.
Oh, really?
And the shells weren't so good. So went out, managed to get hold of the Ellen and Page Smallholder range, and instantly we had thicker shells, stronger shells, and happier hens. And it was just like flicking a switch.
Really?
And the difference was that
amazing.
Yeah.
Endorsements don't come much better than that, does it?
I can't speak more highly of that.
Yeah, it's a really brilliant feed. There'll be more information about it in the e-shot again, which comes out after the webinar. And you can buy it from our shops. It'll be delivered to your door, or it should be available in most good country stores, I assume as well. Yeah. Perfect. All right, thank you, Gaynor. So back to some of our questions, and we've grouped together just some kind of more general AI questions here for you. So somebody has asked us, where, if anywhere, can you find out confirmed cases of AI? So I'm going to hand over to Lizzie to answer this one for us.
Thanks, Fran. So DEFRA has an interactive map which you can view on their website or via the British Hen Welfare Trust website too. You'll also find a list of confirmed cases here with individual guidance for each outbreak. The link for this will go out in the e-shot after the webinar today.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lizzie. So somebody else has asked us, can I still sell my eggs using door-to-door delivery / from the honesty box at the end of the drive? And they've asked if there's different guidelines, whether they're in a 10 kilometre zone, surveillance zone, or if they're in a 3 kilometre zone sort of immediately surrounding an outbreak, and what the different rules and regulations are. Essentially, yes, you can carry on as you have been. Only the main restrictions in those zones relate to movement of birds, don't they? So you cannot move your birds if you're within a surveillance zone, but you can still sell the eggs. What has changed, however, is you need to record everything. So if you've got maybe an honesty box, like I know you have at the end of your drive, put out, I know it's difficult in the rain, but hopefully something undercover, maybe some kind of notepad. So you need to record things, and these are DEFRA's guidelines. You need to record the quantity and some kind of description of the eggs, so what bird they've come from, i.e. in this case, a hen. The date of movement off the premises. So again, if you can maybe have a sheet of paper that have got different columns in and just get somebody to write down the date, maybe have a little sign there saying, please, can you fill out this form when you take your eggs from the honesty box. The name and the address of the person to who the eggs have been sold or gifted. So I know it sounds a bit cumbersome and it's a bit frustrating, but it's one of those things at the moment, I'm afraid, that you do just need to do that. Just, in case there was an outbreak in your area and you maybe got visited by sort of a DEFRA inspector or something like that. So yeah, fine to carry on as you have been. We would recommend using sort of fresh egg boxes each time. Again, just to minimise any disease spread. So don't have boxes that have maybe been crumpled or crushed and have got sort of dirt on them or anything like that. And obviously we would not encourage people kind of coming on and off your premises, so don't be inviting people into your house and especially not into your back garden. But yeah, if you've got an honesty box style setup, you can absolutely carry on selling your eggs, but just make sure you've got some kind of records set up as to where those eggs are going. So another question that somebody's asked, and I know this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment, is there anyone working on an avian influenza vaccine? So that's another one I'm going to hand over to you, Gaynor.
Yeah, this is a question that comes up a lot. The short answer is yes, there's always going to be people looking into this situation, but at the moment, a little bit like if you think about the COVID situation that we had, people realise that there's mutations in viruses. So the virus that we have this year isn't the same as the flu virus we've had in previous years. Yeah. So the thinking is that if we actually have a vaccine, it's not going to be effective against a different strain. And we know from COVID vaccination that we've managed to overcome that, and it gives some protection. So yes, there are people looking at this. Currently, there actually is a vaccine, but it's only available for zoo collections and birds on the kind of the endangered red list. So if it's a specific bird that is breeding program is going to be wiped out if this bird has to be culled, then the vaccine is allowed for that. There is actually an impact on trade with other countries with vaccination, so it has to be a global thing really. So all the countries need to be lined up and working on the same principles.
Okay.
And also, I mean, it does actually require legislative change. So government have got to push this through, and we all know that things take time. So you're not looking, at least in the next year, nothing's going to change from that perspective. But the short answer is yes, people are looking at vaccines and vaccination, but it's probably not going to come anytime soon.
No, it's a frustration, isn't it? Because I think people see, there's been a COVID outbreak and we found a vaccine for that almost not immediately, but very quickly. So I think with this happening every year and our birds having to go into lockdown, it's understandable that people are it's the question everyone's asking, isn't it? When it's going to happen?
It's frustrating.
It's on the agenda, I suppose, is all we can say really, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. There are groups of scientists, looking at this
exactly.
as we speak. Yeah.
And we will always keep you abreast of any news. If you sign up for our newsletter, then you'll get any news. We send out fresh laid news once a month, so we try and keep you abreast of any industry news and developments. So yeah, please do make sure you sign up for that one. So another question that somebody's asked, quite rightly, where can people register their flock? And also, is it mandatory? I think if people have got 2 or 3 chickens, they might be wondering, do I have to register my flock with DEFRA? So I'm going to hand over to Lizzie to answer that one.
So it's compulsory to register your flock if you have 50 or more birds, even if they are pet birds. But if you do register, even if you've got a small flock, if you do register, there is a big bonus to this because you'll be emailed the most up-to-date information. So 50 birds or more, you have to register. Under 50 birds, it's up to you whether you do or not. So if you go onto the UK government website and pop poultry registration into the search bar, you'll then be able to access the registration forms and get those sent off.
Perfect, thanks Lizzie. And can you sign up for alerts without having to register your flock? Say if somebody just wanted to get disease updates but don't want the kind of official business of registering their flock?
Yes, absolutely. So again, we'll pop the link, all of these links will pop into the e-shots, which is going out after this webinar. So if you go onto the UK government website, there is a link there entitled AFA Animal Disease Alert Subscription Service. And so if you sign up to that, you will receive the latest news on exotic notifiable animal disease outbreaks in Great Britain.
Perfect. Thank you, Lizzie. Okay, so one of our sponsors for today, as I've already mentioned, is Dengie Freshbed. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking to you about the kind of benefits of Freshbed and why, again, it's another one of our tried and tested products here at the charity. I think if you are somebody who has already used Freshbed, then you know how brilliant it is already. Likewise, if you use Alan and Page, you'll know how great it is. But for anybody who sort of hasn't, used it before. I really wish someone had invented smell-o-vision, because honestly, this stuff smells so good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It smells great.
Whole room smells beautiful.
Yeah, it does smell great. It's a really, really lovely product. You may be able to sort of see. It's a dust extracted straw, and it just smells fantastic thanks to the fact that it's infused with pine oil. So yeah, not only will your hen's coop smell like a lovely fresh wood, Dengie's also got antibacterial and antifungal properties thanks to that pine oil. So that's great at any time of year, but especially at the moment, just for keeping your coop kind of fresh and hygienic and as clean as possible. Fresh bed is also super absorbent, which again is brilliant at the moment when it just feels like the rain is relentless and it just kind of isn't stopping. Your birds will naturally be tracking water in and out of the coop as they come in and out at night and during the day. So yeah, Dengie Fresh Bed minimises any moisture in the coop thanks to the fact that it is so absorbent. It also, and I think you will agree, makes it easy to do a poo pick, doesn't it? Especially if you've got a nice thick layer, you know, just don your rubber gloves and just
grab a clump,
pick up the poop and be done with it. And when you're doing your daily poo pick as well, make sure that you check the bedding around the pop hole, particularly because when it's been really wet and your hens are tracking the water, and that's the area where it kind of gathers, isn't it? So yeah, just double check that the bedding hasn't gone sort of stale or mouldy, and scoop those bits out and replace them every day. And fresh bed as well is brilliant for just putting down a really nice, thick, deep layer of, especially again during the winter. You know, we like cozying up in a nice snuggly bed at the end of the day, don't we? So our chickens are no different. So yeah, if you've got a nice, thick, deep layer of this, it's just really luxurious for your chickens, and that's kind of what we want for them. And I think, you know, they're spending a bit more time in the coop. Would you agree at the moment?
It's just dark, and they don't have as much time outside.
Exactly, and with, you know, being sort of hemmed in and undercover, they haven't got maybe as much space as they might be used to, so they might just nip into the coop for a little nap in the afternoon. Wouldn't that be lovely? So yeah, just having a nice cozy coop is kind of all the more important at this time of year. Some other great things about fresh bed is it's really easily compostable. It composts quicker than sort of wood shavings and that kind of thing, so you can use it to grow veggies in your back garden once you've composted it. That's if your chickens don't get there first, which often they do. They'll be raiding the veg patch. It also comes in 2 sizes, which is great. So if you've got a flock of sort of 2 or 3 hens, then this is the 50 litre bale. That would last, what, a month or something, depending
on how wet it is now for you to clean them out.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so it's perfect for smaller flocks, or they've got a much larger 100 litre bale, which yeah can be a bit awkward to kind of lug in and out of your country store. So we do sell it online, and it'll be delivered to your door if you want to go on our shop and have a look. There's also some really great sort of environmental benefits to Dengie as well as a company. They're sort of really keen on sustainability, and this packaging is made partly from recycled materials. This packaging itself is fully recyclable. It's recyclable, which is amazing. So yeah, make sure you pop it in your recycling once the bale is empty. There's a couple of other brilliant things as well with the actual sort of elements that go into making the bedding. So pine trees, obviously grown for timber to make furniture, and one of the byproducts of that is bark, which is sent off to make paper or perhaps be turned into books or something, and people don't want their books smelling like a wood. So that pine oil is extracted and put into fresh bed. You know, some companies may think of that as a waste product, but Dengie are obviously really keen to use that to create fresh bed. And then on the flip side, wheat is grown for human consumption and animal consumption, and a byproduct or co-product of that is straw. So they're combined together and they make fresh bed, which is why Dengie's been given their bronze status for investors in the environment, which is a national environmental accreditation scheme. So yeah, it's just all round a really brilliant product. And you use it, don't you, for your chickens?
Yeah, we use it for ours, yeah. Especially in the hen hospital, they just love cuddling down into it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, really great product. Okay, so moving on, we're going to talk about some housing questions sort of related to avian influenza. So the first one that we've had submitted is from someone asking if they think their bird's welfare is suffering with them being sort of housed. Can I let them out? Legally speaking, no. They have to be housed at the moment. Those are DEFRA guidelines. It is illegal to not have your birds housed under cover. So that, you know, it's all about minimising disease spread. And we know it can be frustrating, especially if you're adopting hens for the first time, but it doesn't have to be. You know, a lot of people have got fixed runs anyway for when they're out at work, or if they're just popping out and they don't want their hens to be free ranging in the garden. So, you know, what you then just have to do is make sure that it's covered and that that wild birds can't sort of poo or droppings and things can't fall through into the run. So yes, it's frustrating, and it kind of comes back to the enrichment and the entertainment that you're providing in your run. If you've got enough boredom busters, things for your chickens to eat and look at, things like that, then hopefully their welfare isn't going to suffer too much. I know people have been maybe ringing our hen helpline and saying we're struggling with this, that, and the other, and that's worth remembering, is that our helpline is there for anybody who may think that their hen's welfare is suffering. Please call us, and we can hopefully give people advice, can't we?
And also remember that you can still have fun with your hens when they're not in. Get a garden chair, go in and sit with them.
Exactly.
Take your cuppa in with you. You're undercover. Just sit and watch your chickens, dust bathing and having fun. And,
exactly.
You still interact with them even if they're undercover.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't just have to hem them in the garden and just leave them to it. Just get a cup of tea and go out and with a scarf and gloves on, I think, at this time of year. But yeah, you can go and still spend time with them just as you would if they were still out free ranging. So it doesn't need to be this sort of
probably welly boots at the moment, probably. But
welly boots. Brilliant. Okay. So on that kind of theme, then somebody else has asked, if I use garden netting / chicken wire over the run, is that sufficient, or must the roof stop droppings falling into the run? So this is one for Lizzie.
Thank you. So avian influenza is spread through direct contact with wild birds or their drop-ins. So if you are using netting without a tarpaulin over the top, the netting must have a maximum 25 millimetre gauge to stop wild bird drop-ins falling through. If you are using tarpaulin or a similar cover, please be aware of water pooling on the roof when it's raining, and also ensure whatever cover you use, you must fix it firmly down so that it can withstand high winds.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lizzie. So somebody else has contacted us to say, BHWT, you emailed me a fact sheet of entertainment for my birds to stop bullying, and it's very helpful, which is good. I hadn't seen it before, so maybe you could promote it more widely. I really appreciated it. So yes, absolutely. That would have been probably someone, I imagine, called our hen helpline and said, I'm suffering from bullying, what can I do? And we've got a really great fact sheet of all the boredom busters you could possibly wish for your chickens, although I'm sure that there are maybe some that we haven't thought of, so please do let us know if you're doing something that we haven't mentioned. So yeah, again, we will include a link to that fact sheet in the email that goes out after the webinar, so please make sure you're signed up, and please keep submitting your questions as well as we're going, because we're keeping an eye on them and we're going to get to the Q&A shortly, so yeah, please do keep your questions coming in. Another one that we have had submitted is just covering boredom busters, really. People are wanting to know kind of what things they can and can't do. So as well as that fact sheet that we'll email out, Lizzie is now just going to run you through some of the kind of top things that you can do for your chickens to keep them entertained.
Thank you. So this is certainly one of my favourite topics. So I'm sure I am very similar to many of you guys watching today, that I really, really love spending time with my chickens. And one of the things I like to do is come up with new ways to keep them entertained. So I'm going to go through a list of ideas here. So there's so many different things, different entertainment options you can have for your chickens. So for example, you can hang up treat dispensers, which you can either make yourself at home, or you can check out the British Hen Welfare Trust website, as they have a number of items for sale in the shop. You can hang up vegetables such as cabbages, cauliflower, or sweet potato. You can use something such as a skewer to make a hole in the middle of the vegetable, and then thread some string through and hang that in your run. What I tend to do is I'll hang it just a little bit too high for my chickens, so it means they have to work for it. They've got to jump up and peck at it, and that keeps them busy, because obviously as they're pecking it, the vegetable's sort of moving around. Sometimes we have a situation where the vegetable is spinning and the chicken is also spinning. It's harder work for them when they've got to jump up to get it, and it does tend to last a bit longer too.
It's a free comedy act, that, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So do check out the recipe on the British Hen Welfare Trust website, so you can make your own homemade seed block, which I'm sure your flock will love. You could also pop some corn into an empty plastic bottle. If you puncture some holes into the bottle, so that when the girls peck at it and kick it around, the corn will fall out. I have mentioned all of those things I've mentioned so far are food related, so please be aware of how much you are feeding your flock, as you do not want to overfeed them. So just bear in mind, treats should be saved for the afternoon. If your work hours mean that by the time you come home it's dark, this does not mean you should give your girls treats in the morning. They really need to eat their layers, pellets, during the day, because that's what's got all the nutrition. So yeah, if you are coming home and it's dark and you're not able to treat them, then it's fine to wait till the weekend to do that. So yeah, be aware of how much you're feeding them. So other things you could do, you could hang up some CDs in the run, as hens love shiny things. They'll enjoy pecking at these and seeing their reflections. You could also put a mirror in the run as well. For those of you on the Facebook group, there was a fantastic video the other day of the first flock down chicken disco. There's another idea, and I did notice in that person's run they did have mirrors as well. So you can, that will give you an idea. Just looking at that video, there's a few ideas in there actually that are lovely. So you could pop a bale of straw inside the run. If the coop space doesn't allow you for an entire bale of straw, then you could put some straw into a hay net and hang that up. So the chickens will enjoy pulling the straw out. They shouldn't be eating it. If you think your chickens are eating it, please remove it. So they'll enjoy pulling the straw out. It'll obviously then go onto the floor, and then that will give them some foraging and scratching material. You can provide a selection of perches. They don't all have to be identical. You could use a branch. You could use, maybe you've got an old broom handle. You can use logs. So use various different sized and shaped perches, because it sort of provides them different textures as well. So as well as perches, you can hang up some coloured string. So the chickens will enjoy investigating this. They will tug at it. They will walk through it. So it's a bit of a sensory activity for them as well. I like to go out with a rake or a fork, and I will turn over the soil and therefore dig up some really fat, juicy worms. My girls get so excited when they see me carrying a fork or a rake. So something you've done before with them. It's a really, really fun activity. But a health and safety for the chickens' point of view, please be careful, because they will literally jump onto the fork. They don't think about being impaled by a fork. So dig slowly and carefully so that you don't knock over one of your chickens. You could also hang up a bell or a wind chime in the run, so that's something, as they peck it will make a sound. I have in the past given mine a football, and I also gave them a swing. I have to confess they weren't too enamoured with either of those items, but I think if you spend a bit of time with them, sort of training them, showing them how to use a swing, or kick a football about, anything is possible. Chickens are so much more clever than we give them credit for. They of course love to dust bath. So if you haven't got a dust bath area, please do ensure that they have a dust bath area. You could use, we've got an old tin baby bath that we use. You could have an old tire and fill up the centre of that. There's loads of, in fact we've had one before, have a dust bath in a washing up bowl of soil. So you can use anything, basically. It just needs to be in a covered dry area. One thing that I find certainly a bonus of lockdown is it does encourage you to spend more time with your chickens. So as Gaynor and Fran was saying earlier, you can go out there with a cup of tea, and just by sitting with them, that is enrichment for them, because you are there in the run. You will undoubtedly start talking to them. They'll come over and see you. They'll come and sit on your lap. So just you physically being in the run is really nice for them. It's nice for you to spend more time with them as well. And another thing that I will mention, if you really want to stretch your own mind as well as theirs, this is something I have done in the past with my girls. I set up a chicken agility course. So of course, set up inside the run. You cannot set it up outside of the run because of lockdown and DEFRA rules at the moment. So it will be harder leading a flock of chickens around an obstacle course rather than one solo chicken. But this is all part of the fun, isn't it? So so you can try and do a bit of chicken training and create, I don't know, maybe if you've got a kids tunnel at home, or I've made like little jumps for mine to go over, and they love it. So
Sounds amazing. I think we need a video of that, Lizzie.
Let's try that with mine.
I will dig it out and I will send it to you. But that video was filmed in the summer, hence it's in my garden. So I haven't got, actually no, I've got photos of me doing it in the run, and actually was a disaster because the corn and the chickens were going everywhere.
Chaos.
We all had a lot of fun, so
That's the main thing, and they wouldn't have known that it was not going to plan.
yeah, they were just sort of trampling the jump over. So
Right. Running through it rather than over it.
exactly.
You can also put a radio. We tend to put radios with ours. We're lucky enough to have electricity in our hen rooms.
Nice.
So we've got radios on, and they just love Popmaster and Ken Bruce.
Okay, fine.
They cluck along with it.
Brilliant. Cool. But I mean, I think that's a pretty comprehensive overview of most of the boredom busters that you can do. But like I say, you know, there's probably things we haven't thought of. So we'd love to hear your suggestions if you've got anything that Lizzie hasn't mentioned, even though I think that's a pretty good list.
I think so. I should have to try the Strictly glitter ball.
Yeah, you should.
Disco, yeah.
Yeah. If you're in our official Facebook group, there's a great photo in there at the moment of a chicken run all set up, complete with pink and purple glitter balls. So yeah, very luxurious for your chickens. Okay, so moving on to our third sponsor of the day, who is Omlet. We do have a short video for you to watch now, which just kind of explains some of the features and the benefits of their walk-in run, as well as a couple of other products that they do. So yeah, here we go.
So this is the Omlet walk-in chicken run, which is a fantastic piece of equipment and really will be at home in any hen keeper's garden. Don't forget to have your boot cleaning and boot dip station by your door. That's really important whilst we are dealing with avian influenza and making sure we're following the DEFRA guidelines. So it comes delivered to you flat packed, and it's actually really quite simple to assemble. Ideally you need 2 people to assemble the Omlet walk-in chicken run, but I have to confess I was of no help to my husband whatsoever, and he did the whole thing by himself. So it is possible to do it on your own, but ideally you need 2 people. I really love the door. It's got these clever little locks here, which means your chickens won't be able to accidentally open them. It also means a fox would not be able to figure out how to do this. It's a stable style door, which is really handy at snack time because it saves you having to use the boot dip. You can stay on the outside and just distribute the snacks without going into the run. Of course, when you do want to go in though, it's easily done, just like that. So this is the anti-tunnel skirt. This is a fantastic idea. It runs the whole way around this walk-in run, and it prevents foxes, dogs and other animals from being able to dig and tunnel inside your walk-in run. So you know, because of this, your chickens will be safe. So this Omlet walk-in chicken run is a 2x3x2. And you can buy extension kits, so you can make it bigger or smaller, and you can also get half-sized extension kits, which is a more economical way of doing things. So this is the Omlet poultry, which is a really fun activity for your chickens. The great thing about this is it makes the most of the vertical space. Due to the way that it works, it doesn't take away any of the scratching area for your chickens. It also comes with a treat dispenser and a vegetable dispenser, so you can hang these either from the perches using the pre-drilled holes, or you can hang it from the ceiling of your run. So the Omlet poultry is telescopic. That means it is suitable for any height run. So the base of the poultry is made in such a way it can be used on uneven ground, so you don't have to have perfectly flat ground. You can also screw it into the ground if you wish. The poultry can be put into any coop, whether it's indoor or outdoor. So this particular attachment is for a coop with a mesh top. But if you want your poultry to go perhaps in a shed or a garage, you would use this attachment that's also provided with the poultry. It's really easy to make your Omlet walk-in chicken run compliant with the rules and regulations set by DEFRA during the avian influenza lockdown period. So I've got some netting here and some pegs. You could use there's different types of netting you could use, perhaps butterfly netting, pond netting, scaffolding. The idea is you want to prevent wild birds from getting inside your run. So I'm fixing it onto the run with pegs. You can also use cable ties. You want to make sure that this netting is going the whole way around your run, and you need it quite tight against your run as well. So as well as netting on the outside of your run, you need to cover the top with tarpaulin or similar. The idea behind this is you must prevent wild bird droppings from coming down and into the run. You should fix the tarpaulin really firmly, because when it's very, very windy, it has the chance of blowing away. So make sure it's tightly secured. I've used bungee cords here. And also you need to make sure it's free from leaks. So during rain, you don't want rainwater running into the run, as that can carry disease from wild birds.
Hello again. So we've reached the Q&A section of our webinar, and you guys have been asking some really brilliant questions. So we're just going to run through them and answer them between the three of us. So the first one that somebody's asked is, can we feed our birds green food from the garden if we wash it? So I'm going to ask Lizzie if you'd be happy to answer that one.
Thank you. Did you say green food?
Yeah, so I'm guessing like leafy veg and that kind of thing.
So actually, we haven't mentioned, when I was talking about the treats earlier, I didn't mention, hopefully everyone is aware that you cannot, it's illegal to feed garden scraps to your chickens unless you have a vegan kitchen. If you have a cat or a dog eating meaty, even if you are vegan and your cat and dog is eating meaty food, then it's not a vegan kitchen. So just please bear that in mind. So if you are buying vegetables from the shop, they need to go directly into your garden where your hens are, and not through your kitchen. And in terms of feeding from the garden, yes, you're right in thinking about, can it be fed to the chickens, because could wild birds have accessed whatever it is you're feeding them. I would recommend perhaps not doing it, just keeping on the side of safety there, or if you are going to do it, maybe just wash it really, really thoroughly in cold running water. But I think it might be an idea just to stick to the supermarket vegetables and fruit for the time being.
Yeah, good idea. Thanks, Lizzie. Okay, so somebody else has asked or said, my local vet is refusing to see any bird, and when pushed, confirmed they would only be willing to euthanize in the car park. So what would you advise in that? Would we be saying contact BVNA?
Again, I think that's they're not discharging their duty of care,
No.
and that should have a plan in place, and just offering euthanasia isn't appropriate.
Yeah.
So a call to the Royal Veterinary College and to AFA, because this shouldn't be happening.
No, absolutely. As we said earlier, there's a duty of care to all animals. That's what a vet practice is there for. So yeah, that's not right at all. So yeah, do push back on that, and if you need any guidance on it, contact us and we can advise. Someone said, any tips for boredom busters? And I'm aware that you guys have been sharing some boredom busters in the chat, so that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And I think Lizzie and Gaynor have been through boredom busters quite a lot, so we won't sort of dwell on those too much, and we will send out links afterwards. But yeah, if you're still struggling for ideas, then yeah, please do contact our Hen helpline afterwards, and we can absolutely run through some more. Somebody has asked really kindly, how do we donate for this webinar, which is really nice. So yeah, if you head to our website, which is bhwt.org.uk, and look at the headers at the top, there's one that quite clearly says donate. So if you click on that, and you can make a donation. And yeah, if you wouldn't mind just popping a little note in saying this is for the webinar, we'd be hugely grateful. And we will include a donate button in the email that goes out afterwards. So yeah, thank you so much. We would obviously be incredibly grateful for any donations to kind of support what we do. So somebody has also asked, can you explain the different zones? Whew, that's a task. I'm going to answer that one because I actually went into this and wrote a blog about this not so long ago. So I mean, at the moment, across England, the zones are effectively the same, unless you're in one of the 3 kilometre or 10 kilometre zones, which restricts movement of birds. And we obviously, we're not rehoming at the moment, but we would not physically be able to rehome in those 3k and 10k zones anyway, because movement of birds is prohibited at this time. So what the zones are We have an avian influenza protection zone, which covers a 3 kilometre area surrounding an outbreak of AI. And that's where sort of the strictest controls are, which means birds have to be housed. Obviously, that's the same for everybody at the moment. Then we have the surveillance zone, which covers a 10 kilometre area surrounding an outbreak. So if you're outside of the 3 kilometre zone, but within the surveillance zone, and if there wasn't a mandatory housing order across all of the country, then you wouldn't have to house your birds. But obviously, at present, as we know, there is a protection zone across the whole of England with a mandatory housing order. So birds do have to be housed. But yeah, there's a full breakdown on the FAQ section on our avian influenza page. So if it's confusing, which I understand it can be, please do head there and go to our blog section. And we've got a breakdown of kind of what everything is and what it means.
Just to say, Fran, currently there isn't a mandatory housing order covering Scotland.
No, there's not. No, just England.
Just
so, yeah.
England and Wales,
England
and
Wales.
Northern Ireland.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you for that, Gaynor. Somebody else has asked, should I stop feeding wild birds? So I'm going to hand over to Lizzie for that one.
Well, that is. I know that's something I'm sure lots of people are discussing, because the whole point is keeping your hens away from wild. That you don't want them to have any access to wild birds or their droppings. But equally, we are. We love our. The reason we have hens is because we love our wildlife as well. So I think you should. I think if you are comfortable doing so, I think you should continue to feed your wild birds, but consider where you are feeding them. So if you've always fed them near to your chicken run, then you definitely need to move the feeders away from your chickens. So just find a different location in your garden that is as far away from your run as possible. So therefore, you're still encouraging the birds, allowing them to feed, but they're keeping well away from your chickens. But of course, if you've got your tarpaulin, your netting, if you've got everything in place and your disinfectant boot dips as well, then there should be, if you're following all the guidelines, then there should be no need to worry about feeding your wild birds.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lizzie. Somebody else has asked, how can I make sure my hens are still getting plenty of sunlight? I'm going to head that one to you, Gaynor.
Well, I think this boils down to the sort of covering that you've got over your run, and if you can go with a clear tarpaulin,
yeah,
or a clear netting, then they should. At the moment, sunlight's pretty limited because it's pretty grim and dull, and the days are shorter. But from that point of view, they should still be getting enough sunlight through a clear tarpaulin. So just don't go with a solid coloured one if you can help it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Somebody said, do we know how long we are going to have to keep our hens indoors? We really don't know. That's purely down to DEFRA, unfortunately. The last lockdown last year, I think, was it March?
Last year ended in May.
May, was it? Wow, okay. So, it's how long's a piece of string. We can't predict that, unfortunately. We just have to keep an eye on DEFRA's guidelines.
DEFRA base their decisions on a lot of different factors, but a number of cases, incidents of cases, the migratory periods when the birds are coming into the country and going out of the country. So it is being sort of monitored almost on a daily basis, really.
Yeah.
And if as soon as they feel that it's safe to do so, they will lift the mandatory housing order. But it's not likely to happen until early next year.
Yeah. Of course. And obviously keep an eye on our Facebook page and emails, because as soon as we know, we'll let you know. So just keep an eye on all of our communications. Somebody said to us, I now only have one old girl left. She's looking so very sad undercover on her own. I think it's probably not a good idea to introduce others, but she looks so lonely. Do you have any advice for this person?
Well, a lot of people do bring their birds indoors if they've just got the one.
Okay.
You can have a house hen.
You can have a house hen.
It depends on your setup, obviously.
Yeah.
Hens get on very well with other animals. If you've got a rabbit or or other pets, then they can take the place of another bird. If you did have a utility room or somewhere indoors where you could bring that hen in, then they'd have a much more interaction with you.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you. Somebody's asked, why isn't more being done to explore if lockdown for hens actually works? I suppose that's something that DEFRA may be looking at. We can't really say, can we?
No, that's unfortunately is being looked at in sort of higher levels than we can answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody's asked ideas for making runs or cages. I have 11 houses for different batches of hens as they don't like to mix. It's all getting stressful. I'm really sorry that you're struggling with that. Lizzie, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, so I'm a poly hen carer, so that means, and I do that for two, sometimes three locations actually. So we do tend to get a lot of new hens coming in all the time, and we have at times various temporary runs and temporary houses set up. But our goal is to always have a maximum of three houses and three runs at any one time, because I really feel for you, because I know how hard it can be. 11 houses, that is a lot. Have you considered actually trying to increase your run size? Because maybe it's possible two houses can combine to one house, and they just share, they just have double the space, rather than each house having a small space. You can open up the spaces just to make a larger run, because the more space they have, the easier it is for them to integrate with each other. And when you are integrating them, you can have, if you make sure you put multiple feeders and multiple drinkers up, so they're not all fighting over the same feeder and drinker. I think it really would be worth looking at trying to consolidate some of those flocks together. Maybe that's possible for you, and also providing more. We've discussed the boredom busters earlier, so the more things they have to do, the less likely they are to fight with each other. When you do integrate hens together, there is always going to be, they do need to establish the pecking order. Sometimes it can look quite frightening and sound quite frightening, but they can grab onto each other's wattles, onto the combs, and pull them really hard, and sort of jump into each other. But if they're not causing damage, you can just stand there and supervise them, and it can be over quite quickly. You might just have a couple of days of them fighting, and then you can, but keep sort of do it gently, so have them together, and then put them apart again, and the next day have them together again, leave it for a bit longer, so you can sort of gradually integrate them with each other, rather than chucking them all in together, and then leaving them like that. So I hope that helps, but yeah, I think it would be an idea to just try and consolidate some of those flocks, because I think that will help you just make everything so much easier during lockdown.
Definitely. That must be really difficult, trying to manage 11 different houses and runs, blimey. So yeah, if you can try and consolidate the flocks as much as possible, you can get it down to 2 or 3 runs and houses, that would be far more manageable. But again, if you're struggling at all, please do call our helpline. That's what it's there for. We're here to help. So somebody's asked, if I'm nowhere near an AI outbreak, why do I have to lock my hens in? Again, these unfortunately aren't our rules, they are DEFRA guidelines, and this is all about minimising the spread of AI, isn't it? So that's why it's been put in place across England and Wales. It's to prevent the disease spread, unfortunately, is sort of, as much as.
And the problem is that wild birds don't know where county boundaries come.
No.
So, a wild bird will fly from an infected area and can cover hundreds of miles. So you never can say, I'm nowhere near an outbreak, because that bird over there might have just come from an area where there is one.
Exactly. Good point. Okay. Somebody said, my hens love dried mealworms. Are they okay for them?
Dried mealworms are not allowed to be fed. So no.
It's the simple answer. Somebody said, where can I find out more about the kitchen scraps / non-vegan kitchen point? So we do have some more info on our website, but yeah, Lizzie, do you want to go in more into that?
I was going to say, with the sorry, I should have mentioned earlier, it's very easy for me to say it's illegal to feed kitchen scraps unless you've got a vegan kitchen, that is the rule, but it's very hard to understand why. And Gaynor just mentioned about the mealworms. You can't feed them mealworms, and you think, well, why not? So it's to do with disease, the potential spread of disease and infection. So mealworms are generally prepared in factories that are not food grade, and there's no guarantee that the mealworms you buy are free from infection, free from disease. So that's why we don't give mealworms. And a similar thread. That's why we don't feed from a vegan kitchen. I don't know if you remember, but many years ago we were told, this is perhaps not the best example, but if we wanted to eat a chicken, we had to wash it first before we cooked it. But that rule has now changed, because when you wash it, the water particles with potential disease get spread around the kitchen. So that's why we don't wash it first before we put it in the oven. So again, with the vegetables, if you've bought vegetables in from a supermarket, you put them into your kitchen, you've been preparing a fish or some beef or any raw meat, you can't see those tiny bits of bacteria that do have the potential to carry disease. So this is why you cannot let your vegetables come through your kitchen, because there is that small possibility that they could pick up some sort of disease that you would then introduce to your flock. And then leading on from that, if we're not, say it's the summer and it's not flock down, if your hens then have this strain, this disease, a wild bird could then pick it up, and then, well, we all know what happened during COVID. So it sounds like a silly rule, but when you actually really sort of read about it and understand the reason why we have that rule, it makes so much sense. So if you've got a vegan kitchen, that's fine, because you haven't got any raw meat juices in the kitchen. Otherwise, you just need to go directly from the supermarket to your chickens, which I'm sure your chickens won't mind, because they don't want their cauliflower to be sat in your fridge for days. They want to eat in your cauliflower. So I hope that helps.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lizzie. That's a brilliant overview. And again, we will include links in the email that comes out afterwards to everything that we've spoken about today. So we are going to wrap things up there, because we've answered as many questions as we can fit into the hour. So
The one question from before.
Oh, we did have one question from before. Sorry, I didn't get to that one. So somebody asked, I want to set up a new polytunnel and coop on fresh grass for my hens. How long should I leave the area covered before the AI bugs have died, and is it safe for hens? Can I spray the grass with anything?
Yeah. AI can survive away from the bird that's brought it in the first place on different surfaces for different lengths of time. So on a hard surface, the virus could last for maybe for a month. And then obviously you can disinfect hard surfaces, but you can't really disinfect grass, because it's going to start spraying virucidal products around, just basically going to kill the grass off. So the best bet is to, if you're going to set up a polytunnel on grass, leave it for a month quarantined with no birds in there, and that's probably the best that you can say, is that a month is probably there or thereabouts.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just had one more come in. Somebody's saying, what is the prognosis for future rehomings?
Well, actually, we're looking at this on a daily basis, and we're doing risk assessments. We're talking to farmers, and we have to be very mindful of the farmers' point of view in this, because obviously they're at huge risk. If anybody going onto their properties, and we're talking with our teams, and we are confident that as soon as it is safe to do so, we will resume rehomings, and hopefully that's going to be sooner rather than later.
Brilliant.
But certainly perhaps on a pared down basis, and obviously not in any of the surveillance zones.
Absolutely, brilliant. Okay, all right, well, thank you all so much for joining us. That's all we've got time for today, so we're going to wrap it up. But yeah, like I say, thank you for watching, and please do sign up for our newsletters, and you'll get all the links to everything that we've talked about today. And if you would be so kind as to donate a little bit just towards the webinar, we would be hugely grateful. So yeah, thank you again so much, and have a good rest of the day.